The book, the story is Rich Dad Poor Dad, a true story. My poor dad was my real dad, PhD, Stanford, Northwestern, University of Chicago. And he was the head of education. I have a hard time breathing for the state of Hawaii. And I was his son, flunking out of school, of course. I flunked high school twice because I can't write. And now this book here is #1 in the fucking world, you know. And, I've been at war with the academic system most of my life. When I wrote this book here, I submitted it to Simon & Schuster and other publishing companies, and they sent it back to me saying, you don't know anything about money. So I said, thank you very much. But it comes down to the point of what does school teach you about money? Nothing. When people say they teach you economics, well, what brand of economics? Keynesian, Mises, Adam Smith? You know, economics is a different religion. Marx is an economist. So, what I found out was most teachers are Marxist. Not that they're bad people, but they believe in taxation. They don't like the rich, and the abolition of private property. And they all joined labor unions. So my poor dad hated the rich. He said we should take the land away from all of them. And he belonged to a teachers union. So it's just what you do. So anyway, that's the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I self-published it, and nothing happened. I put it in a car wash in Austin, Texas, and it sat there for about a week. I had 1,000 copies. And then one day the book sold. I called my friend who had the car wash. I said, you want more books? He goes, no, we don't sell books in car washes. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call from Dallas, Texas. He goes, my name's Bill Galvin. I said, yeah. Nice book you got there. I said, really? You bought it? He says, yeah. And I said, how many books you got left? I said, 1,000. You know, minus the one you got. And he says, I'll take them all. And I said, who are you? He says, my name's Bill Galvin. I'm a diamond with Amway. And Amway took it throughout the world. So that's how it got started, just so you know that. So anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is, I'm having a hard time breathing. But most of the time we're up here and we're talking about macro. And the question is micro. What do I do? So I listen to all these interest rates and this, and Japan's going bust, and Germany's going bust, and you know, economy is going this way and all this. So the reason I created this book came for, how many people have played the Cashflow board game? Good. Who has not yet played the game? Okay, good. I have some for sale here. I have 6, and they're generally $90, but for you, $50 cash, no credit cards. Can't trust them today. And if you buy one of the 6, I have this picture of here with my friend, the Donald, and I'll autograph it for you. But if you notice on this right ear, the patch is there. So this was the day after he was shot. And so he and I were sitting on TV. We're sitting in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. He's a great guy, really good man, really good man. We wrote 2 books together. And he had the patch in his ear, and we're sitting surrealistically watching him get shot on TV. And we started talking about what is it like to get shot, you know. And I was a U.S. Marine for 6 years, 2 tours of Vietnam. I was a gunship pilot. And I was saying to him that I've never been shot, but all you hear, the helicopter has no armor on it. It's just aluminum. All you hear is zip, 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 as it's going past your head. And the reason I say that is, in the movies, they say, oh, he's dodging bullets. You gotta be shitting me. That's Hollywood. If your time is up, your time is up. somebody's going to whack you. So we're talking about what it's like to have there, but for the grace of God, go by. And then people came up to him and said, "You're the Messiah, you're the Messiah." He goes, "I just want to win this election." So anyway, so if you buy a game, I have one of these for you. It's pictures of my 2 books with the guy. But we're talking about micro and macro, but more importantly, why games? Why did I start with a board game? And the reason is, human being has 4 intelligences, and one of them is mental, of course. One is physical. Another one is emotional. And the other is physical. So I contend that games are a better teacher because I learned to be a real estate investor playing Monopoly. And for those of you who play Monopoly, you know the formula. It's 4 greenhouses, 1031 tax-deferred exchange. And so Kenny McElroy and I are partners in all this. We own lots of property. Own the golf course at the Biltmore, things like this. So I love real estate. And the thing I was really thrilled about, for those of you who are thinking about joining the collective, the thing is, I hang out with Kenny all the time, and we're partners. I learned more from him yesterday than if you're talking about, "John, I didn't know that." So I hang out with very, very smart people who are not just teachers. I hated teachers, like my poor dad. They're preachers. They talked about things they don't do. And so the thing about the collective is you hang out with people who are doing it every single day. So they're current, and we're talking about AI this trip and all this stuff. So the most important thing you can have today is your financial education. Because I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, I was looking at Jeff Snyder, the lines he was showing to me is not recession, depression. When depression is below subprime growth. And we're cruising for it. Japan is crashing right now. Germany's crashing. China's in serious trouble. And a lot of it has to do with this This is trash. And that's why when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the rich don't work for money. We don't work for this. Savers were losers, and your house is not an asset. And the reason this is important is 1965, I was 18 years old, living in Hawaii, and I held up a $50, a $1.50. And up until then, they were all pure silver. 65, they turned to copper. And I looked at it, I went, what is wrong with this thing? But if you know history, what the US was doing in 1965 was the same things the Chinese did when they printed fake money, the Romans did when they clipped coins, and the Germans did when they printed fake money. So I saw this coin, I'm going, And the reason I wear this here, it says 1971-72. I think most of you know what happened on August 15th, 1971, was Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And I was in Vietnam. I flew the helicopter gunship. We were getting our asses kicked. And it was a bad war. I was flying off a carrier. And I fought at the Battle of Quang Tri. It was the biggest battle we fought. We got our asses handed to us. And the Quang Tri, for those who may not have been to Vietnam, is on the DMZ, the militarized zone. And the NVA broke through at Quang Tri. And so we had several carrier groups, and we're flying everything we had against the Viet Cong, NVA, North Vietnamese Army. They kicked our asses. So I still remember those guys. They fight differently. They carry their AKs like this, and they run and shoot. And our Vietnamese were turning and running. So I landed back on the carrier. The hardest things about being a pilot is your friends don't come back. They just disappear. You never see them again. You go to the Vietnam Wall and say bye-bye, to them. But these guys are coming like this, and so I raised my hand in the squadron and I said, how come their Vietnamese fight harder than ours? Maybe we're on the wrong side. Whew. You don't say that as a U.S. Marine, man. You got my ass handed to me. But I was just questioning, how come they wanted to win more than we did? And back in 66 was the first, this was 71, 66 was the first time I was in Vietnam. And I was a midshipman. I went to an academy. And I was on a beach, and there's people who are drinking beer and all this stuff. So I walk up to the bar girl, this is in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. And I said, what does a Viet Cong look like? And said, they're sitting right there. I went, what? She said, those two boys over there are Viet Cong. So I thought, well, go say hello. So we're about the same age. We walk up, sat down, bought them a couple of beers. They didn't speak English. I didn't speak Vietnamese. But a couple of beers, you can communicate. And what I got from them was they want what we have. And my concern here is today, what we have today is a bunch of fat, lazy guys. Our military is horrible. My friend's a lieutenant general. He says they can't find men today. So we've gotten soft, is what I'm saying here. So as a Marine, I sit there, I look at all this stuff, I go, what has happened to this country? But that's what the Viet Cong wanted. They just wanted our good life, and we got soft. But going back to the dollar, when they start printing it, again, 71, 72, and I got a letter from my rich dad, and he says, hey, the world's going to change. I said, why? He said, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I said, it's all going to change. I didn't know what he was talking about. We don't have money at school. So I said, I think I better buy some gold. So what I did was my co-pilot and I said, okay, we're going to make a deal. We're going to buy some gold today, because it was $50 an ounce back then. It was 35 going to 450. And we said, okay, there was only one problem. The gold mine was now behind enemy lines. So Marines aren't the brightest guys on earth. We said, let's go in there real quick and see if we can get some and get out of here, So we launched from the carrier. We get, and okay, we're now in bad guy country. And you can see burned out tanks and all this stuff. And they said, where's that gold mine? We're reading these maps, And it says, there should be a tall bamboo patch. So we see the tall bamboo patch, we fly to it, we land, and the Vietnamese people are having their swap meet. We disarmed, we took all our weapons off, and we walked into the village. Hi. And they're going, are you fucking nuts? So we walk up to the window, a little bamboo shack, the woman selling gold. But trouble, it was gold nuggets. It wasn't gold eagles, So my co-pilot looked at this thing going, what is that? I said, I don't know. It looks like a raisin-painted gold. We didn't know what it was. So, well, we're here, let's buy something. So it was $50 an ounce. I said, I'll give you 40. She looks at me and goes, spot. I went, what? I'll give you 40, spot. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And so finally he goes, spot is the price of gold throughout the world. She was the best teacher I ever had. Gold is money, the rest is credit. And she says, spot is spot throughout the world. And I was first a silver bug in 65, and then I became a gold bug. So today I own gold mines and things like that. Kenny McElroy took a gold mine public out of Utah, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So quickly I'm going to go into what financial education really is. That's my background here. But the reason games are a good teacher is because when I I flunked out of school twice because I just couldn't sit there. I got bored stiff. So it's like, how can you learn to play golf if you don't add physical to it? You don't have emotional, the possibility of losing, and you don't have, this is spiritual, excuse me. When you fall down, you have the guts to stand up again. And I've fallen down so many times financially that it was the spirit that steps back up and fight on again. So, let me see. So this, most of you know this is called fundamentals. Technical is the ups and downs that people are showing here, macro technicals. But this is fundamental here. And when you go to your banker doesn't want to see your report card. Your banker wants to see your financial statement. Think of a clicker here. Oh, I do. So that's the cash flow board game for those who haven't seen it. This is a financial statement from the board game. And I'm sure most of you know this, income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. So when I go to my banker, that's what they ask for. They don't ask my GPA and all that other garbage. In 2008, when the market crashed, I walked in with my financials. And they said, how much do you want? So I bought some of the best real estate in the world for cheap because I had financials. They don't care that I was an F student. This here is the second book, the Cashflow Quadrant. E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed or small business. Most people are E's and S's. The trouble with tax-wise, E's pay 40% tax, S's pay 60%. Big businesses, 500 employees or more, they pay 20% tax worldwide. And I stands for insider investor, not investor, but insider. So I invest from the inside. I put my own deals together. And insiders pay 0 tax legally. So our school system is still teaching us to be E's and S's, or when people have their own YouTube channel and all that, they're S's. And S is somebody who, they still have to keep working. So to retire, I had to go to the B and the I side and build the businesses, and that's what I've done here. And, And this is called the BI triangle, going back. The B and the I side, this is what's required. So I'm not going to go into, but this is the third book. But I'll quickly go into why this is so important here and to explain to people. The number one asset is a business. That's the B. So a real entrepreneur builds business. What happens with the business? The reason it's called cash flow. Business floats cash flow up here to your income statement. So it comes back down here. So let's say I have 10 million. My job with the business is then to go into, I'm sure you guys know all this stuff, but I buy real estate. I don't buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. So I buy real estate. Why do I buy real estate? So let's say I have 10 million here. I'm going to lever up with debt 100 million. So by increasing my asset with debt here, then this cash flow goes up here again too. And the beauty of real estate is you don't pay tax. So this is why I created this board game. So you want to start, the idea is you play the game enough times, and you say, I think I'll start a business, which is tough, really hard to do. But then the purpose of a business, buy real estate. So I have 10 million, I lever up to 100 million. Today, I'm $1.2 billion in debt because money became debt. It's all credit. And that throws more cash flow. But because of appreciation, depreciation, amortization, no tax. That's what Tom Wheelwright teaches. I don't have to go to Puerto Rico. I can do it right here. And with the business, then it keeps cash flowing. This is what my rich dad taught me to do. Then you go into paper. And paper are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and all that. So the paper here is what I did was I take companies public. I took a company public on Toronto Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, and I have a lithium mine coming online to NASDAQ. That's what capitalists do. So the way you know you're a capitalist is you're not buying stocks, you're selling stocks. So I produce paper here, but this is the whole thing I'm getting down to is it's all cash flowing. I don't park my money. And it's just money, making money going through assets. But it comes down to my favorite word, which is commodities. And that's how I get back to gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And it's all the cash flowing round and around and around and around again. And that's what the cash flow game was designed to do, was to get your brain to think about it. And this is my formula. I'm not recommending it to everybody. But when I was 10 years old, my rich dad's teaching me all this stuff going, and you want to get back to what's real. You want to get back to gold, silver, Bitcoin. So I get a little miffed at times when I'm on YouTube and somebody says, "Are you a silver stacker or a gold stacker?" I go, "No, I stack gold mines." So that's what capitalists do. And the purpose of the board game was to teach your brain to think this way, because our brain is just neural pathways. And the reason the physical is so important is because you can't change this until you change this. And that's where our schools F up. And it drives me nuts when I listen to a lecture. I go, I was checked out all through school. Even here I struggle. If I wasn't interested, it'd be tough. You want to change your brain, you have to use your hands. That's like if I was learning to play golf. You know, I can't learn to play golf going, okay, hit the ball straight, but don't hit the ball. That's what we do at school. Or when a child learns to walk, if the child falls down, the school would punish him. You cannot change your life until you change physically. It doesn't change the neural pathways. That'd be like me saying, you eat with your right hand, okay, eat with your left hand. It's tough because what you're doing is changing your neural pathways. And that's the purpose of the game. So I meet people say, yeah, I played the game once. Oh, Jesus, give me a break, just give me a break. But the purpose of the game is to sit there and keep changing your neural pathways. Like eating with your right hand, eat with your left hand now. Because what happens for most people is they're stuck. Is it on? Yes. I'm terrible. Okay. Most people are stuck on the E and the S side. Their mindsets are there. An employee will always say the same words because words become flesh, What an employee always says is, I'm looking for a safe, secure job with benefits, a steady paycheck, and a 401k. Give me a break, man. Whew. The trouble with that is, how many people know unemployment is going up right now? AI is going to wipe out millions of people. I live in Phoenix, and they have Waymo there. Waymo just passed 10 million miles. They're going to spread it out there. So all you Uber drivers out there are hosed. Why do you need a human being? That's just one. 35% of all jobs in the world are drivers. This guy Waymo thing is going to take them out. So the question is, what does that person do? So that's why the idea of an E, I'm looking for a safe, secure job with benefits and a 401k. That's the garbage our school teachers are pumping into our kids. Terrible. And then S, they're even worse, because they go from 40% tax in the E quadrant to 60% tax in the S. Oh, I started my own business. Yeah, why don't you just bend over because the government's taking all your money with taxes. That's what's happening. So an S will always say the same thing. If you want it done right, do it by yourself. So when I was, and so I was kind of blessed. I flunked out of high school twice because I'm functionally stupid. I struggle with my iPhone. I go, what is this thing here, And I couldn't do math. I couldn't do any of that stuff. So I was stupid. I said, oh, that meant I had to cheat. So there was a couple of guys out there who were with me on that one. So at test time, I was sat next to the smartest girl, like this, and I go. But I didn't know, see, when I was doing this, I was practicing for the B and the I side. Why is that? Because B and I side team sports. It's how big is your team. And the team is measured there. You can see as mission, team, leadership, product, legal, systems, communications, cash flow. The product is I have product design guys, legal is my attorneys, systems. Like I have a woman named Mona Gambetta, she plugs my books in throughout all the world. Book systems, game systems. My books and games are in 50 different languages. And it goes into communications. So what I do is I have people speaking for me all over the world. People are teaching the game for me. The purpose of the Cashflow game was for people to teach people. So I didn't have to do it. So my rich dad said the key to success is laziness and incompetence. I said, I qualify. Nobody's laughing. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the world on Amazon, people are buying my books and teaching the cash flow game and buying more books. Called capitalism. That's what capitalism is. And then the communications is I might start a network marketing company off my cash flow board game. I don't know yet. And then it boils down to cash flow. So cash flow is my accountant, Tom Wheelwright. So if you notice, the reason I come to the collective and Rebel Capitalists is I get to hang out with smart people. I come here to cheat. I come to learn. And the real smart people, they're back at their jobs, working hard, hang on to this paycheck. I can't go to Rebel Capitalists. I don't have time for collective. I got work to do. E's and S's. Marx called them the proletariat. The B and the I side, the bourgeoisie. So the purpose of the cash flow game was to have you learn to be bourgeoisie on the B and I side. But it means changing your neural pathways. Okay, so like one of the greatest entrepreneurs in education is Maria Montessori. And what she says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. So the more you do, the more you learn. So I commend you all for being here. Come to learn from other people who are doing the real thing, or you could be in school getting your MBA or something worthless. There's a gentleman out here, school's a waste or something. It was a waste for me, except I went to military school, which was good. I went to flight school. I learned how to fly, I learned how to drive ships, but I had to learn how to do things. And reason I created the cash flow board game, the more you do, the more you learn.